Okay, we are live. Welcome everybody. Welcome to VOC NextGen panel episode 2. Here we have three lovely people. They all went to Burma, Chin State, and it's very exciting to have them here in our panel. First of all, we have Teresa and Jenny and Valte. They all came from different locations. Most of us are from America. Valte is from Australia. So we will begin our panel with a very, it's very relaxing conversation that we were trying to have. So, you guys uh, feel free to jump in, add questions, add comments, anything you want. It's not going to be like strict, and you can just be open about it. So let's have a good night, and then we're gonna have a few questions from my end, and I'll be asking you. Of course, take your time, answer as much as you want. Okay. So we're gonna start with introductions. So let's start with Teresa, and then we'll go by Jenny, and then Avate will follow up. Okay. Let's start with Teresa. Welcome, Teresa.
Hi. First, thank you for having me. Hi, I'm Teresa. Um, I'm in Dallas, Texas right now. This is where I was born and raised, and I went to school at a school called Rice in Houston, Texas, and I majored in neuroscience, and I'm on the pre-med track. So right now I'm in my gap year applying to medical school, and I've gone to Laitlang and Mizoram twice now, and I'm really excited to be here talking with you guys today.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Jenny.
Hi everyone, my name is Jenny Biaknimpar. I go by Barku. I went to Loyola University of Chicago for my bachelor's in environmental science, and then for my master's, my concentration was in sustainability management. I currently work as an environmental consultant in Chicago. I went back to Laitlang in June for almost about a month. That was my second time. The first time was 2016, but this time around there was more of a mission or sort of a goal of what I want to achieve. So this trip was more meaningful for me, and I currently live in between Milwaukee and Chicago. Thank you.
Valte.
All right. My full name is Lai Ramathang Ratin, and you can call me Walter Ratin. I finished studying Bachelor of Science in Physiology, and I continue my studies into dental, and I completed oral health therapist and hygienist, and I'm currently working already. It has been 4 years since I've been working into dentistry. I was born and raised in India, and I've been back to Chinland last year sponsored by ChinTube, and it was myself and Dr. Ruby. And I'm very grateful to have Voice of Chin, and especially with this moment. And thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Wow, very nice. We have very smart people in our group. Y'all went like, continuing your education and stuff like that. So first of all, we want to say thank you so much. Let's start with, our experience when we went back there, right? So what I wanted to know is like pretty much what did you experience, right? And how many trips you've been there? I think, Teresa, you said you went there twice, right? Yeah, so you can talk about your first experience, second experience if you've been there. And let's start with you first, Teresa.
So the first time I went to Laitlang and Mizoram was in December 2023, and I was recruited by TCI, or Tantlang Council International, and we kind of wanted to do research with the refugees and IDP with like Tantlang Beng people, and so they sent me and another researcher to go and kind of see it for ourselves, just because I think we see and read a lot of things on the news, but being able to go in person is really different. And so the first time we went, it was kind of like a general research trip, and we went for 3 weeks, and we then went back in July of this year to kind of hone in on education and research. And this time we spent about 5 weeks or so in Mizoram. And I would say the trip was very big, like in a professional sense, like for the work and the research we were doing, but also on a personal level. I had never left the country before. I had never left the US before. Like I said, I was born and raised here. So like I really had never experienced or even seen like whatever, all the Laimi around me, like they kind of have that shared experience of growing up in Laitlang or growing up in a lot of cases Malaysia or another country. And even my parents, like they tell us stories about how much they suffered um, in Laitlang when they were there. And so I would hear the stories, but again, like all I've known my whole life is this like life in the US, going to school, driving, going to work, things like that. So when I went back, like it's hard to pinpoint what was interesting or new because it was like all new. And I thankfully, like in this day and age, like I have seen videos and pictures before, so nothing was like too shocking, but I think still being in person was still very different. I was really struck. If I had to pick one thing, I think the sense of community is really strong. I live in Texas, especially. So, like in Texas, you just typically you have your house, and then like you don't even know who your neighbors are, right? You don't really have that culture of like living close to people and just like walking over to their home and just doing life together.
Right.
At least that's not how I grew up in particular. So I think that was something that I really enjoyed when I was in Laitlang that I didn't expect I would enjoy so much. But I felt like, in theory, like, yes, I'm an outsider, but I felt like I belonged, like I could just exist. And then people would like talk to me, and it was very open and very welcoming. And so in some moments, I felt like I had been there my whole life. So it was really, really interesting. Um, and yeah, the second time we went, I think my co-researcher and I, we were both determined to make use of our time. I think when we have these trips, it's a lot of resources and money that is put into having students like us go back. And so I think we wanted to spend our trip with a lot of meaning. So in a work sense, we were both like really determined to have some new findings, new outcomes, and be able to kind of start new projects with our findings. And so that was in Mizoram for 5 weeks. Being able to live amongst the refugees, again, is always really enlightening and teaches me a lot about their life there that I can't pick. Like, there's small things you can't pick up on through the news, right? Because what the news typically covers will be the armed conflicts or the things like that. But just like daily life, how they interact with one another, their needs with school, especially, I think those are things that we were only able to pick up by going there in person. So yeah, it was a really rewarding experience.
All right. Thank you so much. Those are like very interesting. We want to hear more about it and we'll get into it. Okay. So for now, let's start with Jenny. Same question. What did you experience when you went back there?
Yes, similar to Teresa, I was also recruited by TCI for Tentang Council International. We do a little bit of a different research in terms of just, I think with Teresa, they do more of education and health, and we do more of redevelopment within Tentang. And so we went to 9 different villages and towns, and we talked mainly with IDP camps, just sort of what sort of things they envision for, let's say, the country were to settle and we achieve revolution. What kind of things would they envision for the city if we were able to go back to Tentang? So we had a lot of really, really good conversations that came out of that, and everyone was so eager. And I think everyone was in a state of sort of hopelessness, a little bit of just like, oh, we'll never be able to go back to our hometown, we'll never be able to see it again. But when we came in and we started those conversations, they kept telling us, oh, like our dreams, like tonight we're going to be able to sleep so well because having these conversations and talking about our envision for like what we envision for our city, it feels so refreshing. And so it felt really nice to bring that sort of I guess vibe to the villages, and so they were all very, very, very welcoming. We had really good conversations, and overall, I think I had a really good time. I mean, I went back in 2016, but that was sort of a more of like a brief trip. I didn't really get to immerse myself into the country, and so this time around, I think I got to experience a little bit more. I sort of envisioned myself living there eventually. I want to move back, and so
Oh, really?
yeah, I definitely see myself there, and I joke around and kind of like seriously, I am considering it is to like move there, build a little house for myself, and like have like an animal sanctuary and like have 10 dogs and like 5 cats and things like that. So I loved it. Like I really see myself being there and living there for a long time. And but that's sort of, a goal in the future. But overall, I think I had a really good experience. It opened my eyes to a lot of things that I wasn't aware of because, living in America, you see it on the news, but it's really hard to grasp what you see. But when you actually see it, it becomes more clear to you. So I definitely think it helped me kind of also understand where I kind of fall in and what I want to do for my community. So yeah, overall, it was a really good experience. I learned a lot. I did a lot of things. I went farming for a little bit, went up and down the hill, so my calves were a lot stronger right after the trip. So it was all good. Yeah, it was really good for me.
Wow, a lot of activities. That's very nice. All right, all right. Let's move to Vate. Vate, same question
Yeah,
for you.
well, I had a lot of
What-
experience as well. But I think it might be a little bit different to what Jenny and Teresa experienced. I experienced, if I make it a dot point, I experienced about poverty and lack of sanitary and unhygienics and unclean water. So I experienced quite a lot of the negative side, and all this assimilated within my memory, and that sort of not really impact my day-to-day life, but I always have that in my mind, and I always have that imaginary, when I think about our people, our Chin people, because we spend most of our time with our RALCAP, CNA, CDF, and we were at base camp, if it's okay to mention. So, and we were supported by Chintube from USA, America, and it was me and Dr. Ruby. We both focus on health and educations, and most of our time we don't really have that time. We don't really have much time to travel outside. We spend most of our time, like Monday to Friday, giving our service in regarding to health and educations. And Saturday we did some sort of like social activities, like singing and playing some games with our people. And Sunday we did church service as well. And God is great. I had that ability to experience and being able to go back to our Chinland, even though I wasn't born in Chinland, but I think God wants me to experience all this negative side, because seeing our people living under that poverty is very sad. And we are really blessed living here in Australia and living in America, how luxury life we are living. We all have our own house, cars, we have money to spend. But over there, even if we have money, like there's no food to buy. That's how sad it is. Like here in Australia, if I'm hungry, I can just go whenever I want, like do drive through, or maybe I can do like Uber Eats and something like that. But over there, you have the money, but there's no food to buy, so you just live the life like that. And it was I would say a great experience, but not in a good way. A lot of stuff where something that's part of a history and the chapters written in my story. Yeah, thank you.
All right, very interesting. We all experienced in many different ways, and that's what I'm getting out of from you guys, what you guys said. Yeah, so like when I guess Teresa, you mentioned a little bit about like what you experienced also you also mentioned about your expectation and things like that. Well, did you expect something, and when you actually went there, was it like totally different, or what was the what was your emotion when it comes to like expectation and reality? You can talk about your first experience and compare it to your second experience also, okay?
Mhm. I think, to be honest, there was no like crazy expectation or anything I had. I think, I guess, an expectation that my a lot of my friends and family had. Sometimes jokingly, they'd be like, "I don't think you can handle going to Laitang." Like they're like, "Oh, you were raised in the U.S. Like you won't be able to handle it. Like you're gonna come back within a week."
You're American.
Yeah, I'm American, so jokingly they would say that, and I'd be like, "No, I'm gonna go. Like it'll be fine." And when I went, it was fine. Like I really did. I think like for instance, like food, they were like, oh, like it's gonna be really hard. But fortunately, like at least for me and my research co-researcher, like the places we went, we were treated with really nice food. And
Mm,
to be honest, the food we ate there was very similar to the food I eat every day at home. And
mm.
so in that way, or even the people in Laitlang, they would be like, "Oh, can you eat this? Like, this probably doesn't taste good to you." I was like, "No, like this tastes really good." Like, I love, lai roll. Like, lai roll is my favorite. So there were just small things like that that were kind of funny because, um, again, like I think especially in Laitlang, they do see me as American, which is totally fine. Like I think that's very valid. And so like if I open when I open my mouth and speak in Laiho, they were like, "Oh my gosh." Like, "Wow, you can speak Chin." So I was happy that that made them so happy. So I think moments like that really showed me like even the small things like oh how I can like share food with them, how I can talk to them, it made them so happy and relieved in a way. So I could tell that I think some of them were concerned that their kids in the US or Australia or other countries like wouldn't come back to Laitlang, or that they wouldn't really be comfortable or know how to talk with the people there and things like that. So I would say um, in terms of like the food culture language, there was like some small expectations that people had, and then when I went there, it actually was pretty smooth for the most part. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Jenny, I want to ask you the same question also. Like, what's your expectation? Like, big different? And I know you went to many places also, right? So you can talk about a little bit about that. So I want to hear from you.
Yeah, I guess like because this was my second trip to Laitang, I went back in 2016, and there's a huge contrast in between. With after the coup and everything like that. So there was a huge contrast there where I was more in the villages rather than like the bigger cities like Pentang or Hakka. So trying to adjust to that, it was a little bit different. But in terms of expectations, I didn't have any expectations, to be honest. I think it was more of just me. I was sort of more reflecting on my own actions of making sure that I was being intentional and that the things that I say or the things that I do, like I don't come off as American as I guess that's what I was trying to do, is that I didn't want to end up harming anybody in the way that I acted because I'm so used to American culture in some ways. And so I think being really intentional was the goal, and I was more reflecting on my own actions. So I didn't have a lot of expectations. I was ready to embrace whatever was going to happen. I was ready to embrace whoever I meet, whatever it is. Like it is what it is, sort of attitude. And I wanted to do that, and I wanted to every conversations that I had and every interactions that I had, I wanted to be intentional, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't say things that end up hurting people. And so, yeah, expectations, I didn't have expectations of anybody or anyone, but I wanted to make sure that I also was being as authentic and genuine as possible. Um, and in terms of emotions, like it, in moments it was very overwhelming. But there are moments where it was like, wow, like this is really meaningful, and having this opportunity, I'm really grateful for it. And so it was a roller coaster throughout the ride, throughout the entire trip, but I think overall, like, it 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 came out to be a lot more meaningful than I expected. And so I think that's something that I took out of it, is that I have friends back home now who I can maybe text on messengers and things like that. And so it's been really rewarding.
Oh, very, very good. Very good. We'll get more into those stories. Okay. All right, Vate.
Can I just interrupt, Jenny and Teresa? Maybe I just want to ask whether, if the people who lives in Chin, do they expect you guys to speak in like whole, or what was their expectation in regarding to like language? Because because Chinland, I mean Chin as in Chin has a lot of dialects as well, and growing like us as growing up in Western country. So what were their expectation in regarding to like language and so, and like what language do you guys use to communicate over there, like between, I mean, amongst you guys as well, like, and between villages, or like during your journey?
That's a great question. Like, I want to add one thing. Did they like as soon as you guys they see you guys? I mean, obviously, some people will notice like, oh, they're not from here. So did they try to test you guys or something like that?
Yeah. Because right, if you look at Teresa and Jenny, by just looking at their appearance, you can, like, some people might assume already that, ooh, some other nationality came to visit us. Do you know what I mean? Because you never know,
They don't look like us,
Yeah, because especially if you look like beautiful and pretty, and like people over there, they hardly see a beautiful woman's over there. So as soon as they see you guys, they might expect like, ooh, do we have a celebrity visiting us or something like that? So what were their expectations?
I think I'll go really fast. I would usually we would meet people and then we'd be like, oh, hi, like we're from the US. And then I would tell, and that was in Chin, right? Hakahot. And then I would tell them who, they're like, okay, who are your parents? Like, what's your kwa, etc. So I tell them, and then I have to mention, okay, I was born in the US. And then that's when they're like shocked. And then I think it makes me wonder, did someone visit them from the US that couldn't speak Chin that well? I don't know, but they seem to have that expectation that I wouldn't know Laihot, or like, like not be able to speak it that well. So I thought that was really interesting. At the gear, like that's my kwa. They I don't know, they were testing me, but they swat me a bunch of zusa, and like I've never eaten that before. So they swat me like the head. I was like, oh,
wow.
I could eat like other parts, but the head, I was a little like hesitant. So there were small funny moments like that. But they were really understanding of it too. So yeah.
That was a test.
Was it a dry zusa or was it like a curry, mate?
It was dry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then my relatives had me bring a bunch back to the US. So that was funny.
Oh, that's dangerous.
Yep.
The custom might give you trouble.
I do think people were a little bit intimidated in the beginning. And so I would just smile all the time. Like I would just smile at them. And they, in the beginning, they were afraid to approach me. Even the little kids, when like as they're going to school, they'll just look at me, but they don't want to talk to me. And I'm like, oh, hi, Nindama. And then they would sort of just like do this and then walk away. And so I sort of had to force myself a little bit to be more outgoing. But I think initially they are a little bit afraid to approach you, but I try to come off not as American when I am in Laitlang. I'm like, I am one of you guys. I speak Laihol. I know the cultural, so like talk to me, speak to me. And so I try to come off as like less American as I possibly can.
I want to ask you more of it, but it's okay.
I guess.
Well, let's turn to Vate. Same question for you. What did you have to like? How did you approach? I want to add that too. So
Well, with that, in terms of expectations, I think people over there,
Mm,
they like just like what Jenny mentions. To me, I feel like they are, I would say, scared or maybe avoid, to approach us because we are from um, such a high developed country, and visiting to such a low developing country like Chin. So they are sort of like scared or maybe avoid us to approach, and that was one of the challenging as well. And people over there don't really communicate much as well unless we start the conversations, or unless we say like, oh hi, hello, nadam tamo, and then they got really surprised, or you know what was going on over there, what was like, where is the communications, where is this hi hello stuff.
mm,
Well, I understand because the coup happens for many years, and people over there are quite, I would say, emotionally, physically drained as well. So I don't think they have that energy or momentum to even say hi, hello, nadam tamo, good morning, nato tamo. There's no words like that. And when we um, like wake up in the morning, like people will just like do whatever their routines are. So they would just get up and then do whatever they want, like not even a single communication. So I was like, hang on, this place is like a dead, there's no conversations like how, we would have a normal conversations here in Australia. So meeting over there is something that's really important for me, I guess. Like communications, expectation. Their expectation is different from my expectation because it feels like there is a cultural difference already since we've been
mm.
living in America and Australia for many many years, and and they have that different perspective, and it seems like as if we both have a different cultures already. So that was a challenging as well. And I would say they expect us to speak Laihol as well. I know that like me and Dr. Ruby, we lived in a different state, but then we like, because some of the words that we want to describe and mentions Laihol, you know, doesn't have that words as well.
Mm.
Um,
It's
that's
hard to
why, like,
explain sometimes, right?
yeah, it's like to explain something. So we often use like English, and people who will hear from the background or from the other side, they will say, "Oh, you guys are talking too much in English," this kind of stuff. So
Mm,
expectation is that like, yeah, they want us to at least, maybe know or understand, or at least have a bit of understanding about Laihol, I would say.
mm.
And my expectations before going there was like, I will have my own room, I will have my own bed, something like that. But nah, it was like a
Privacy.
it was like a camp, So where you have like two, four, three, so three or four people shared one room, and yeah, my expectation was not something um, like I imagined. It was hard. It was hard emotionally. Um, like I mentioned before, money was the thing. Like I have the money, but uh, there's nothing that I can buy with that
Mm,
money. It's like you're hungry and you want to buy food. So
mm,
it's like money can't buy food. It's just that you have to earn it. You have to earn it to fill your belly. I think that will
mm,
make sense because in Australia or in America, you have to work and get the money first, or earn the money and
mm.
to buy the food. But back in Chin, it's not like that. Even if you have money, it doesn't it doesn't mean that you will be able to buy food. No, you have to work and earn it for your belly. So I think that's a bit of a difference, right? It's like also saying happiness can some money can't buy happiness. So that's what I experienced as well. So to be able to feel that belongings and happiness within that society, I think money doesn't really work in that situations. You just have to spend time with persons. You just have to communicate these persons because people over there suffered a lot, and um, what they did is, in their concept is just, have the guns, shoot the bullets, throw the grenades, and then like kill as many as people you can. So they have that concept in their mind. So they don't have the concept of like socializing, no physical exercise, or there is no like a friendship connections amongst themselves. So I think that would be my emotional experience.
Mm. Very interesting points that you made, man. Very, very good to hear. Um, so you because we don't I was just gonna say because the next question that we're gonna have it's kind of similar to what we just answered. I just want to add one thing to that. Let's start with Jenny. Could you please share where you were born and where you grew up? Of course, we talk about your expectation before going there, but has that environment shaped your identity as a Chin? And also, after you came back, what has changed your thoughts and things like that? If you can explain a little bit.
Yeah, so we moved to the US when I was about 7 or 8. So we've been here for a little over 20 years now. And, um, you know, between, the minute you're born and then like between 7 and 8, it's a little bit blurry for me. So I didn't really remember much of Lai Lang, to be honest. There's like little moments that I do remember, but it's very vague. So I would say like having that experience, but then at the same time, like I've always felt connected to back home because of my parents, where they've always instilled this thought that like, oh, like the things that you do should be something that it, the things that you do should have an impact for your people back home is always what they've told us growing up. And
Mm-hmm.
so, all like, "Nimi punta, nintua how," the kid, like, there's always that conversations, and my parents
That
have always
concept.
done that. Yeah, yeah. So, that I grew up hearing that all the time. So I think it became a huge deal for me. And then, even with the field that I ended up choosing for my career, environmental science was sort of, you know, it I chose that because of what I wanted to do for my community, because I thought about climate change and I've thought about, well, we don't have all these resources that, the US or other Western countries do. And so what would happen if we were to have more disasters as we are currently witnessing what's happening in Burma right now with the flooding and everything like that? It's those things are going to impact us even more than what it is right now. It's going to get worse. But because we have lack of resources and access to the things that we need in order to prevent or even mitigate or alleviate these impacts, I think it's so crucial for I wanted to be part of that. I wanted to think about those things and be sort of a bridge to providing those type of access and that sort of resources to our people. And so I think it ended up connecting to what I end up doing because I thought about our people. And everything that I do now, like even going into the environmental field or being part of TCI, it was really hard for me to figure out what it is that like how would I get involved or what is it that I truly want to do for my people, because the environmental field is very broad too. And so it was like so going on this trip, it also sort of narrowed down what is it that the community needs and where can I insert myself so that I am being more impactful and being as useful as possible rather than burdening other people. And so this trip really opened up my eyes and allowed me to see where I fit into that picture. So it taught me a lot. It also allowed me to have a newer vision of what I want to do for my community. So yeah, I think having that background, but then also going on this trip sort of collided and made it into a really great outcome for me.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Did you remember your childhood back in Burma? Do you,
I do a little bit. Like I remember a little bit of like
yeah.
Yangon and like Penzang and Hakka and things like that. But I remember mostly Yangon because of like living there for the last 2 years before we moved to the US. So it's vague, but I remember like bits and pieces of it.
Do you understand Burmese? Do you speak a little bit of Burmese?
I like to say I understand what you're saying, but I can't respond to it.
Hey, that's more than a plus.
Yeah.
We came in
Uh,
at such a young age, so.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, interesting, interesting. Very nice. I like your degree too. Okay, Teresa, I want to ask you the same thing because your background is very different. You were born in America, pretty much you're like American citizen, American born citizen. Um, I know you mentioned a little bit about your surrounding, your where you grew up. We know that yeah, your community is very tight to you. You're from Dallas. A lot of Chin people live in Dallas and stuff. So, growing up, does it change your environment, shape your identity as Chin?
I would say honestly, a lot of this is not like anyone's fault, but I think like being born in the US and especially as a child where the concept of like immigration, poverty, like what we experience as Laimi, as a child, like even if my parents tell me, I just don't have the like maturity or like as much intellect to really understand, right?
Mm,
So for a lot of like my early life, that was not my identity was not like a really big like topic of thought for me.
mm,
But when I became like a preteen to like a teenager, I would say, especially going to school, and oftentimes I was the only Limey person at the school. So because even though there's a lot of Limey in Dallas, there's Dallas is very like big, so everyone kind of is in their own block or area. And so, in my experience, at least, I was typically like the only Limey person in school. I think at times I did feel like very American in that sense, but I think similar to what Jenny said, my parents were very big on emphasizing to me that our people, like we are a poor people, we are in need. And as someone who is born in the US, they really emphasize that I should use my education to benefit our community somehow. And so, and then of course, another thing they emphasized or really taught me was be like talking to me only in Laiho. They were like, if you
mm,
talk in English to us, we're not going to answer you, even though they understand English. Like in our household, that was unacceptable. So I think things like that they did really helped me, and I can really appreciate that now as a 22-year-old. But as a kid, I would, I didn't realize like how impactful that is. But
mm,
um, yeah, and then I think even so my mom is a pastor, right? So like her work oftentimes, especially earlier on in the US, involved taking Lyme patients to the doctor. And she would often have to be their translator because in our community, pastors are translators, social worker, like they have a lot of responsibilities. And so she would often tell us about their experiences as refugees, as immigrants who can't speak English, who feel intimidated in a doctor's office, who don't know how to explain their condition, things like that. And so I think from early on, that kind of drew me to the idea of medicine.
mm,
So I think Katitlo Bunkin, like I was really influenced by our community struggles, and is now that I'm applying to medical school, you have to write like, why do you want to do medicine? All these questions. The topic of our community always comes up in my interviews too, because it really is like a huge part of what attracted me to medicine, and how like as a physician I want to be someone who can communicate to our Lyme patients in our native language, not just Lyme patients but other refugee or immigrant populations, and have the understanding as someone who comes from a sifakmi or like a suffering community. And so I think I would say it was very integral to like me choosing medicine as well. And so when I went back to Laitlang, I think I can relate to what Jenny said a lot, like getting a better picture of like what I can do right now as a college student, as a medical student, and as a doctor. Like, what are the things I can do to hopefully like not just help the diaspora, like me in the US, but like hopefully like me in Mizoram or in Laitlang. Like, how can I help them as a physician one day? It gave
mm.
me a lot of really good ideas. So um, yeah, I would say the trip did a lot. Like I already had a lot of thoughts and ideas, but the trip helped me better solidify and understand what those ideas could be in the future.
Very interesting perspective. Yeah, definitely. Like well, growing back to the community, like it's must have like touched your your the way of like you're going into your career, and that really over there a lot of people, especially Vate was saying like um, what I'm trying to say is they really need us, as in like people who are very enthusiastic, people who are willing to do, especially medical field. that's the most needed, you know. So I really appreciate it. And I just want to say, like, hey, kudos to your mom. Like, she really taught you well. A lot of American kids, you know, they're not able to speak fluently in Lai or either Burmese. So yeah, thank you so much, Vate. Let's turn to you. I know you grew up in India. Uh, it
Yeah.
might be a little bit different from a lot of us who grew up in like Burma or grew up from America. Tell us about has it changed your environment, identity as a Chin? That would be really interesting from your perspective too. So.
Well, even though growing up in India, our family, it is quite dynamic, and especially um, where I lived as well, because my parents use Lai Hall, and um, my siblings, we use Mizo Hall, Mizo Tong, and
Mm,
when we went to school, we use Hindi. So it was a mixture of language. And then after that, when I arrived in Australia, and then it's in English as well. And even learning English here in Australia, it's a bit different to American,
mm,
because there are a lot of slangs, and as
mhm,
you can imagine, when you see someone speaking Australian English, it sounds a bit different to American English as well. So my family, yes, we use Laiholt now because my parents had a great influence on us. We are 7 siblings, and we are a big family, and now pretty much we all communicate in Laiholt now. I think that's a big achievements and
mm,
improvements within our family. Um, and so, like I said, my identity as a Chins, it was developing as a very low level of Chin identity, but now I see myself as a solidified uh, Laipa or Chin man, I would say. And we use Chin Laihol a lot here in Australia as well, and the government's
within your
the
community, church.
yeah, yeah, in our
Mm,
community as well. And the government's also supported us to be able to study Lai Hall in year 11. I mean, from throughout primary to until like year 12, which is a college level.
mm,
And that is a great achievement for the community as well. So I would say in general, our community as a Chin is quite strong. Um, and after going back to Chinland, it really motivates me and Ruby to step ahead and to be able to do an extra curriculums, to strengthen our Chin identity and to give more awareness to our people as well. So that has also shaped my view towards who we are and what we should be focusing on and what we need to do in the next future. So we have come up with Heal Chinland programs. So we're focusing on the health, educations, leadership, and advocacy. Well, I just mixed it up everything. So we come up with a Heal Chinland program. So we just recently
mm,
started, and hopefully, so what our goals and aims is just like what Teresa says. We're focusing on health and education, and just like what Jenny also said, we're trying to have like advocacy, like connections between people from here in Australia and people from back in Chinland as well. So we're trying to have that connections more and more, so that we can help our people, our community. So that is what we are planning as well. And knowing about Chinland, I didn't know much about Chinland, because um, we just classify ourselves as Burmese or like Burma. When people said, "Oh, where you come from?" and we said, "Oh, Burma," and they was like, "Oh, you don't, oh, we don't know where Burma is," and then, oh man, map. So we have to show the map as well, and then like specifically when we have that concept of Chinland and Chin, and when people ask, "Oh, where are you from?" It's like Chin. Where's Chin? Like Chin, you can't even see Chin in the map, right? It's very, very tiny. It's very, very small. Now that a lot of us don't want to classify as a Burma now, as you can see, the Korean and Kachin don't want to classify themselves as a Burmese now. So now we're starting to have that more like awareness and saying to public that we are Chin, not Burmese. And I know there's a lot of politics going on, and when we said we are Chin, like people don't know it, So I think it's the time as well that we should start mentioning, Chinland, because this is our identity. This is who we are, and we have the language, we have the cultures, and that's what I think we need to step ahead as well. So, like I said previously, I wasn't into like I didn't know much about Chinland as well, and I wasn't into much about like Chins. So now that I have traveled to Chinland and I've seen many places, it opened up my eyes as well. I know there are a lot of like needs, lack of resources. Just like what Jenny said, it will be great if we have that. After we have that skills, after we have that knowledge, it will be great to have that connection between America and Chinland, and Australia and Chinland as well. Because if we do the needs assessments, like there are lots of needs like health, educations, infrastructures as well. So from my perspective, it's not too late, I would say. Even though we don't know much about Chinland, like we can try our best to support Chinland.
Mm-hmm. Very good, very good. Do you still speak fluently on those languages? I know you mentioned Mizo, Hindi, right? Do you still speak those languages?
Yes. Burmese,
Very
Burmese nenetire.
very nice.
So so during our service, so most of the people over there, they use Burmese. It's because if you look at the Chin map, you will see like Mindat, Kampalet, Palewa, and they use mainly Burmese as well, because it's quite influenced by Burmese language. And whereas you see Lai Hol speaking from Hakka and Tantlang, a little bit from like Falam and Matu, Tidim, I will say is rare. So I would say 80, I would say 50 to 80. I don't know, I didn't do the research, but I would say majority speaks Burmese and Lai Hol. And yeah, I try to speak Burmese as well. But it's hard. Look, having all that dialects and knowledge, when you were young, you have to pick a lot of language, and now that I have to pick Burmese again, it's quite challenging. But sometimes I just make a note as well, the things that I want to mention. So for example, if I said to someone, whether if they want to have a clean done, or whether if they want to have a fillings, or maybe if they want to have a tooth extracted, I would say Tua tan sinzilo la. And then if they want to have a filling, I would say Tua ne palo no. And then if they want to have that tooth extracted, I would say Tua ne no me la. I think I had a bit of a word already.
Well, your grammar needs a little bit improvement, but pretty much we get the idea. People will understand. Like what I'm trying to say is that you grew up in like India. Your background is totally like there's nothing relation to like Burmese, and then you came up with like that. I would say, man, this is good. This is good. Very good. Nice. I want to stick with you about that. While you're there, I know you mentioned a little bit about those stories, right? So, what were your like most memorable moments during there? I know you mentioned like tooth extraction, things like that. You can talk about other stuff also. So, I want to hear from you.
Well, the most memorable. So there was a guy. He walked all the way from Falam to base. So I guess it might be many days trip. Well, he said he walked. So this guy, he came to me, he approached me, and he said, I said, yeah, may I please have a toothbrush? And I asked him, I was like, surprisingly, don't you like, how come you don't have a toothbrush? And he said, I make my way all the way from Falam to here. And I asked him, like, when was the last time you brushed your teeth? And it was like, it's been a week. I was like, what the? So this guy basically didn't brush his teeth for a week. Can you imagine? And is that okay if I show you the photos? Maybe.
Yeah. I think you shared to us, right? Yeah. Let me. Okay, give me 1 second. Oh man. Okay. Just to warn you guys, it's kind of distracting. So, all right, if you don't want to see it, just look away. Hold on. Give me 1 second here.
We got
Here
a
we
comment
go.
already from this person's as well before I took a photo. So I'll just mention that. So this person gave me a consent to take a photo, and yeah, so here it is. As you can see, so
I accidentally. Okay.
yeah,
Okay, there you go. So that's the guy you were talking about.
yes, that's correct. So this guy is a young bloke. He's about, I would say, 2021.
Okay.
And yeah, he's a young bloke. Didn't brush his teeth for more than a week, and he walked all the way from Falam to base.
Is that you, like holding his mouth in the?
Yes. That's my.
Okay.
Yep. That's me.
Mhm.
Yep. So that's one of the most memorable, I would say, in regarding to my career as well. And every time when my daily job is like cleaning someone's teeth and checking someone's teeth. So, seeing this kind of like teeth, I would say it is a rewarding as well, because it gives me a good memory. It gives me a good memory, and I gave him a good clean. I gave him a good oral health educations as well. I'm pretty sure you might follow my instructions. Because people over there, they chew betel nuts a lot, and smoking as well, and drinking alcohol, so they don't have that much educations. And
Right.
as you can see, like, people don't really care about brushing their teeth, so it was a very memorable for me. Seeing that guy. Yeah.
I see. How do you say brush your teeth in Burmese again?
In Burmese, every time I see them, tuatai no. Every morning tuatai no, every night na tuatai no.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, you hit it. Like that's the correct way to say it. All right. Do you want to add anything else from that? Do you have other memorable moments?
I have one more memorable moment. I would
Okay.
say, so this guy, he stepped on mine, and he lost
Okay.
unfortunately, he lost his other legs, and I really feel, emotionally. I pay my respect to the people who served Chinlands for this revolution, and I pay my respects to past and present, to all CNA and CDF. And so this guy stepped on mine, and somehow he has lost his other legs. So, and then he couldn't go to, like, toilet and bathroom easily, because he has to use the walking stick. So I asked him. So every night I would just like make a lap or something. Lap as in, like, round.
Round. Yeah.
Round. And then I asked them, everyone, along na tongcha ba, tuatay pibila, and people will say no. Some people will say yes. And then I will point to this guy, and I asked him, like, why didn't you brush his teeth? I asked him, no, why didn't you brush your teeth? And then I just realized it again. Oh, he lost his leg. And then I said, like, can I take you to the bathroom? And he was like, sure. So I took him to the bathroom, and then I just brushed his teeth. So can I just quickly show you that photos? Yeah. Could you please?
Okay, another one that you share. All right. Yeah. Okay, give me 1 second. All right. That's the guy.
Yeah, so that's the guy. So as you can see, he's got only left legs. So yeah, I helped him to brush his teeth. Yeah. So that's my second very memorable. It's quite sad. Like, many people gave their life, for our Chinland, and there's nothing much we can do, because we lived our life here, quite luxury. Like I said, we have house to live, we have a car to drive, and we have a food to eat. So God has given us all this, I would say, flexible life. But people over there suffered a lot. As you can see from that photos, I wouldn't talk much about it anymore. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing those stories and stuff. Okay, Jenny, I guess I want to ask you the same question too. Was there any memorable event or things that you experienced while you were there?
As I mentioned before, I loved it there. Just being able to wake up in the morning and hearing the roosters and the chickens like just waking you up, and then on top of that, you know, Ichakwe and Puri,
Oh,
they only make like a limited batch. So like you have to get there early in the morning or else you're gonna run out. So
mhm.
waking up early so that I can get my breakfast, and then getting breakfast itself is already like a very community thing too, where it's like, oh, like that person didn't wake up on time, so I should probably get like Ichakwe and Puri for them too, or Lakpakti and things like that. So you got to meet people and you get to eat food together. And so that was like waking up every day to that was really, really joyful for me. On top of that, I got to make a lot of connections with a lot of the youth. We went farming together. They took me to one of the farms, and we stayed at a little like the little hut. Tamakan, and so
Mm.
we just kind of sit inside and talk, and with the beautiful like scenic view and things like that. And so overall, I think the day to day like routine of just waking up in the morning with the roosters and then getting breakfast, and then on top of that, just like making the personal connections with everyone was very memorable. But I think one thing that also really stood out for me was being able to go inside of Tentang just for a little bit. At that time, it was only until the school, the high school, we only were able to go inside there. And so we got a little bit of tour, and a lot of the work that we want to do is in Tentang. And so being able to see it, you know, I've lived in the US almost all my life, more than half of my life, but I've always felt this connection with Tengkang. And so being able to see it and being able to kind of like Wichitlang, being able to stand there and just having like that full overview, and then also being able to go inside, it
Mm.
became a very emotional like experience for me. And so it also motivated me even more to think about like what are ways that I can personally do, and even with what we're doing at TCI with the master plan and the funding roadmap, I want that to be a huge impact for our community. And so it motivated me even more to do the stuff that we are doing at TCI. And I'm glad that I'm a lot more involved now as I've gotten older.
Mm. Man, the view must be breathtaking, right?
Yeah.
Like for the first time experiencing it, right?
Yeah, you wake up and you just see like the mountains and the
Oh,
clouds, and like
yeah,
the roosters
sound.
waking me up right on time too. So
Yeah, it's like a natural alarm for you, right?
exactly.
Yeah,
I
I
ended up
don't, I don't know. I don't know about you, but like to me, it's like my natural alarm is that icha gwe. That will wake me up for sure, and I will line up the first
yeah,
thing in the
'cause,
morning.
by like 8 a.m., like it's all gone. So you have to make sure you like run to go get ichakwe and puri. And then also when I came back, I really missed the sound of like the roosters and the chickens. So I end up making my alarm sound of roosters so that I could like experience it once I'm here.
I see. I see. Very, very good story. Very interesting. All right, Teresa, let's head to you. All right, I know
Um,
you mentioned a
yeah.
lot of stuff. Just tell us about something that we haven't heard, like memorable moments that you experienced while you were the first trip, second trip.
Okay, the first trip, I would say it was a lot of meeting people in a short amount of time. And I think for me, the moments that stand out were actually meeting with Minot and the school students. So that includes like like the camp, getting to talk with Rakap. We got to do like a little fireside chat with the new Rakap female soldiers and like hear about their experiences, their motivations for joining, and how their family reacted to them joining. Of course, like a lot of them like Xianglo Butinkin, like they had to leave their family. So I think seeing these really young people just so willing to fight for their people was really awe-inspiring. And again, like I was like, as again someone from the US, like we live such a cushioned life where we've never been put in that like place of, okay, do I like fight for my country? Like that thought had never really had to
Right.
be something we wrestle with. But for them, a lot of them were just like, this is like the natural thing to do. This is the right thing to do. And a lot of them were really bold and very assured in their decision and just really brave. So that was very, very inspiring. And I will also say talking with the school students was really fun. Just like I just like talking to kids and younger students, but really at one school in particular, the Agape school at Delhi, a lot of Razam refugee students, we would ask them about their experiences as Razam, and they opened up a lot. We were really impressed with their answers because although they were really young, like 14, 15, 16, they were so mature, really have gone through a lot of difficult life experiences. For instance, this one girl shared about how she and her sister were working full-time at a restaurant, I think, and they experienced a lot of discrimination from the mainlanders in Delhi. So she was telling us that and just crying. And I think it's really hard in those moments to like not cry too, just because we see how our community is people who are really just like us at the end of the day, right? We're all Chin, but just due to different factors and where our families happen to move and things like that, they live such different lives from me. I think that was really emotionally impactful and made me really appreciate the blessings again. Like it's just a constant reminder of like how fortunate and privileged I've been in the US, and made me very, very determined to kind of make good use out of these opportunities I've been given. So yeah, I think talking with the Mano and school kids was definitely the most memorable.
Yeah. Must be really tough for them. I can only imagine. Yeah. Okay. Let's start let's go into another question. I know the questions that we have, it's you guys kind of answered it along while you guys were talking. So I was just gonna go through like very basic questions that we have. So let's see here. So I guess I forgot to ask you. I don't know if you guys mentioned, but when you guys visited over there, how was the weather and how long did you guys stay? Right, that was the question I think I was going to ask. But if you already answered, please, if you don't mind, please answer again. Let's start with Avate. How was the weather condition, and how long did you stay there?
So we stayed there for about 5 weeks, and it was in December.
Oh,
And I really like the weather over there. Actually, it's a bit humid as well. I would say cold in the early morning and late at night. But apart from that, it's beautiful weather as well. But the place where we live is like next to the river, so it's and when we hung our clothes, sometimes it takes about like 2 to 3 days to dry because there's no dryer like here in Australia, right? So sometimes it takes about like 2 to 3 days, and I don't have that many clothes over there. So sometimes I just have to wear the same clothes for a couple of days, same, I mean, not underwear, you know what I mean? But same clothes in there for about like a couple of days, sometimes 3 days, I don't want to go too deep into that. I know it's a bit embarrassing, but that's what everyone's, like who lives over there are just, suffering. Like I mentioned, people over there just live their life like that, like Holin Batsimatsun, like a sin pit napawin, or maybe like if you use a Burmese, it's like a pitalu. So
well, Simpie is Burmese, and then Chitalo is also Burmese. But okay, I guess.
All right. So
I understand.
like a pitalu and a sin pit nak. Yeah, like that. So I just live there, like a pitalu and a simpit nak.
Yeah. Well, you went there. You lived there for like a month, and it was during like December time. So some nights are very cold, right? So how did you manage to live? Like I know Australia is not very cold place.
Well,
and yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, during the time, there were many other guests as well, and it doesn't mean that we don't have enough blankets, but like what I have is like 1 or 2 as well. Sometimes if it's cold, I just sleep with my, some jackets again. So like I said, however, situations brings, a pitalu, you just live like a pitalu and simpitna. Yeah, look, no complaints. Like if I complain a lot living over there, then it means like, as a man, I have to act like a man, right? And I have to, trying to tolerate, this kind of hardships as well. So talking too much is not, it's not an ideal as well. So you just have to suck it up and, yeah, bear it, as long as you can.
Well, nice experiences, man. Thank you for sharing. Okay, let's go back to Teresa. How was the weather condition? Does it any particularly that you want to talk about?
I think so. The first time I went, it was December. So like what they mentioned, like it was kind of cold at night. But I would say the second time we went, it was Furky, so like it was honestly a little dangerous at times to be traveling. Or a lot of people were concerned, like like be careful the roads. Like there's gonna be stuff like landslides, especially in Mizoram. It's just all mountains, right? So there was a few days where like the travel was a lot slower from the landslides, and our drivers would just have to kind of just like find the next fastest path, but sometimes that would mean waiting 1 or 2 hours longer. But thankfully, like I feel like once we arrived, the weather kind of settled and it wasn't as bad. We didn't really encounter any dangerous things. Thankfully, we were really, really blessed. So yeah, I would say I got to experience like two very different types of seasons there.
If you could choose, would you rather go in the winter or the rainy season?
Okay, I think honestly for safety for the roads, maybe winter is like better. Yeah,
Mm.
even though it
Oh.
is cold at night.
Yeah. And how long did you stay there?
The winter trip was 3 weeks, and then the summer or like the July trip was about 4 to 5 weeks. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. So it's almost the same. Like, well, okay, all right. Thank you so much, Jenny. How long did you stay there, and how was the weather condition?
We stayed there for 3 to 4 weeks, and it was during the June season, and so, like
Oh,
what Teresa said, it was the raining season, and so, but for some reason, for us, it was very smooth. We did have some bumpy, like we had to stop, get out of the car, and then like push the car even because it was just so muddy. And so we had that, but I enjoyed it. I feel like I enjoyed every part of it just because like
did you
it
also help push the car and stuff?
right, you helped push and then we felt bad being in the car while they were pushing, so we got out. We got a bunch of mud on our pants and like all over our shirts. And so that to me was already like it's an experience, right? Like that is part of what Lifelang is all about. And so
Do you
for
have the
me,
photo, Jenny? You should show us.
I don't have any photos right now, but
Oh,
if I find them, I'll definitely send over. But yeah, I think for me it was just like embracing every moment of it. It was just like, oh, this is what life long is, and so I'm gonna embrace it. And so there were parts where it was really scary because it's really close to the corner or like to the edge of the cliff, and so
Oh,
there were moments I was like, oh, we're gonna fall.
yeah.
But part of me is like, I want to learn how to drive in Light Lang and
You
see
don't want to
what
learn. You don't want to
what
learn.
would that be like. And so I don't know. We'll see. I also want to learn how to ride the motorbike, and so like the second time
Do you
around.
have the courage?
Huh?
Well, Jenny, do you think you will have the courage to drive a car or maybe a motorbike back there?
I mean, if I am gonna integrate into Light Lang and really live there, I'm gonna have to learn.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like over there,
Yeah.
everybody kind of needs to learn like how to ride a motorbike, because
Mhm.
anywhere that you want to go, it's easiest, and that's the where everybody uses. So yeah, it will take. You will have to learn how to
Yeah.
ride a
Well,
motorbike. Yeah.
apparently, it's a very easy thing to drive.
Mm-mm.
Since you just have to like navigate it, but I don't know. I feel like I would be a natural at it, but we'll see. But
I mean,
I loved
yeah,
it.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean,
overall,
you'll take some balls, and then hopefully you don't break your bones. I'm
oh
kidding.
yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm just
I mean
kidding.
that's how you learn the fastest, right? Like
Yeah,
you get hurt and then you pick yourself up again. You do it again.
yeah, yeah. All
Wait,
right. Thank you.
that reminds me of I do have a funny story, and I hope my parents don't hear this, but um, basically this has to do with the road.
Mhm.
So we were driving, and I think like our tire got stuck in the mud as well. So we had like it was me, my friend, and three other men. And so they, of course, they were like, okay, like let's fix it. So they got like a spare tire from the inside of the car, and that took a while. And we would go out, but then it took a while, so then we'd go back in the car. And my friend and I were like eating snacks, and this whole thing took like over 20 minutes, right?
Mm.
And then we're just like eating our snacks, and we're like, of course, we're on like, you know, a cliff, and the car starts like moving forward by itself. It's just me and my friend in the car. But for some reason, instead of like doing something about it, we just like look at each other, and like we didn't. I think we were like frozen, and then our driver like he like dives in the front seat, and then he like and like
Oh wow.
yeah, we like he really saved us, and we were just like, wow, like we could have died, but thankfully we're okay. So yeah, I think even like what Jenny said reminded me, just because like yeah, those are moments I was like, yeah, we're really in Lang, and like yeah, it was kind of crazy, but I think a funny story now. But yeah.
I see. Okay, stay there. I want to continue asking a question, and then I'll go back to other people. So, did, so yeah, I know you mentioned you were doing research and things like that,
Mhm.
right? Like, what are your plans in the future? Are you
Mhm.
planning to go back there? Do you plan to do the neat research, or like, what's your plan, pretty much?
Mm. So my friend and I have gone twice at this point, and I think especially after the second trip, we wanted to kind of use our findings to create or like start a new project with our group TCI.
Hmm.
And so we did focus on education and health. We went to a lot of schools. Everywhere we went, we would talk about, or we would talk to nurses and doctors if possible. So asking like, what are the health needs? And with the schools, of course, there's a lot of things that need equipment, things like that, but on TCI's end, we're thinking, what can we as people in the US do? And so, one of the ideas was making an app, to learn English,
Hmm.
just like in general, trying to foster more connections with the people who do education there, and again, trying to solidify, like, that connection with us as Minot in the US and, uh, people with education, curriculum, things like that over there. And so, personally, I don't have set plans to return, but I think if there's an opportunity, I would love to go maybe before I go to medical school. If I do go, I do want to potentially go for on a personal level, like maybe a medical based trip this time instead of research heavy. I would like to kind of like, of course, I'm not a physician yet, but you know, maybe shadow a physician or like get to help and be of assistance to someone. That would be really cool for me on a professional sense, but also being able to go back and help our community in that way, like in a medical way, would be really cool. So I think I don't have like like, oh, I'm definitely gonna go back on this date, but I think I'm very open minded to going back, and I like definitely plan on doing it in the future.
Thank you, thank you. All right, Jenny. I kind of want to ask you the same question. Are you planning to go back there? Doing the same research, or like, what are your plans if you go back?
Yeah, so a lot of our research is we want community engagement is highly emphasized within our research because if we are going to rebuild the city, we want to make sure that the people want to stay in it and want to live in that city. So a lot of the research that we're doing and developing this master plan and funding roadmap, we want to integrate the community's feedback, and we would like to go back. We think sometimes being on the ground and being in person allows us to get more genuine feedbacks and more conversations for us to have. And so we are planning to go back eventually. We don't know quite yet for sure yet, like when we're gonna go, but hopefully by next year. And then on like a more personal thing for me, like I said before, like I want to move there. Like I want to eventually maybe find a way to live there in a way that's like I don't want to burden anybody. I don't want to make it like I don't want to be a nuisance for anybody. So I'm still trying to navigate what that means and what that would look like. But eventually I would like to move back to Laitlang and come visit the US once a year or twice or something like that.
Whenever you feel like you want to come back.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like you're not gonna see me in the US as much.
I see. I see. All right. Okay. Vate, are you planning to go back? What are your plans?
Well, yes, definitely. I am planning to travel there again with Dr. Ruby, and I think it will be a great idea maybe in the future. American teams and Australian teams, maybe if we like travel at the same time and then do the educational programs and stuff. I think we both have that concept and ideas to support in terms of language. Like, I mean, education, it is the language, learning English and writing skills as well. So what Ruby did last year was to ask them to draw like a heart, like kidney, lungs, and they don't have any ideas, like that. And like, to be honest, if you ask them to write their names in English, do you think they will be able to write their names? Most of them might not be able to write their names. That's how underrated they are in terms of their educational level. And going there is heartwarming. And this kind of projects, it needs a teams, and working together is something that will strengthen the targets as well and the goals. And I'm not planning to do any research, but in terms of my career and what I'm doing right now is to do with dental. So we are trying to support Chinland with dental services. So we will be traveling with Australian team, and people are into educationals as well, and midwife and nurse, and I myself in dental. So maybe it will be a great trip if Teresa and Jenny wants to go back at the same time with us, and we will have a great contributions over there.
All right, nice message. I want to stick with you. We're getting to the towards the end. I want to ask you one last question. Well, what are your messages to the community? What is the next generation like? People like you, your generation, who are maybe older, a little bit older, younger than you, and what are your thoughts for Chinland? And then, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, my thought for Chinland is for its development and success, and during this military coup, I want these revolutions to to come into an end as soon as possible, and to have that. I'm not gonna say like to win the battle, but I just want like, because I support health and peace. Like, violence is something that we all don't want it to see. As you can see, violence is everywhere is in this world, like even in Israel's and even between Russia and Ukraine. So that's what we have been witnessing and experiencing, all this violence in Chinland as well. So I just want the violence to be stopped as soon as possible, and supporting Chinland Council as well. So my message is that Chinland Council is doing their best, and I'm really grateful for all the efforts and supports that people are giving as well. And to all the people who fights for our Chinland, the CDF and CNA, great work and keep it up. And we are also trying our best here from Australia and America to support you guys. And to the community and society, I just want to say that if you are studying, then try your best, try to get into a career job, and to be able to get into a skills work related as well, so that you may also becomes an useful for our Chinland as well. And to all the people who viewed us, who doesn't have much contributions, I think your donations is really helpful as well. It doesn't have to be like participations in this kind of trip, or like going back and giving the service, but every, like some people said, every dollar counts. So the donations is very helpful as well. And I know there are a lot of donations in our community, in our society, from church, from community, from Kwame, from Tlang. I would say, look, these people need a lot of supports, and there are like women's, who doesn't even have like enough sanitary pads, and like they don't even have enough bra. I would say, I know it is embarrassing, but that's what they are struggling with. And a lot of guys are experiencing fungal infections in our tongue and around their genitalia as well. And in terms of health perspective, I would say they really need to support medical wise as well. So your donations will make a lot of impact as well. And that is my message. And thank you very much for having me for tonight, and to all the audience as well. I really respect for your time.
All right. Okay. Teresa, your messages to the community. Next gen to Chinland. Next gens for Chinland.
I think with regards to this, like one moment from the trip really stands out. We were at a soldier recovery camp, and we were asking the soldiers, like, do you have a message for the youth in other countries like Australia, US? And one of the soldiers said something along the lines of like, right now we're doing a lot of work for our country, but in the future it will be y'all's turn, like your turn. And so I think that his message conveyed a lot to me, and I hope to other people listening, especially Minot, anyone going to school. I think like at the end of the day, a lot of our people's future does lie in our hands, because a lot of the Minot and school kids in Lai Tlang, like their education is really stunted from COVID, from the military coup. So I think we have to really think about the privilege we have in the US or Australia or other developed countries. Our privilege to even go to school is something that like other students are really, really wishing they could do. So I think we have to remember that we have the potential to really do great things for the future. There's so many different like fields you can go into that could be of great contribution. That it doesn't have to be medicine or engineering. It could be like so many different things: business, entrepreneurship, politics, like really anything, and becoming like good and skilled at that particular thing. Like I'm sure there's a way you can use that to contribute to like in the future, just because we are so needy. And so I want to really encourage anyone who's like, oh, like I can't be of use to the country, like I'm not like I can't even go back. Or instead of having that thought, try to be more like, okay, like what am I doing now? How can my everyday school or everyday work or life like lead up to a future where I can potentially like contribute more to Lai Tlang? I think having that mindset and being very open-minded and I guess like dreaming big about how you can contribute to is like something that I want a lot of Minot and our like younger students to really keep in mind.
Thank you. Right, Jenny. Last, what's your messages to the community and generation for Chinland?
Yes, I think Valde and Teresa also kind of mentioned this already, but I want to remind everyone that our people are incredibly bright and deeply knowledgeable, with great understanding of the land and their own experiences that are far more than we can fully understand. And so I just wanted to emphasize that the only difference between them and us is that we have these access, we have these resources here. And so as Chin youth in America or Australia, our role and the responsibility that I've also embraced is to be the bridge that connects our homeland to the opportunities and resources we've gained from living in first world countries. And so just like everyone has already kind of said this, and it sounds cliche because you hear it all the time, but we do have these resources and all of these things that we probably won't have back home. And so just reminding yourself that, you know, there's not much difference between you and them. It's just that you have these access. And so it all depends on how you want to use it. And then one thing that I also want to mention is that we definitely need to start integrating ourselves with other Chin groups. I think oftentimes we're stuck in our own like Haka or Falam or Didim and things like that. And so let's try to branch out of that and try to include everybody and try to be as inclusive as possible. And not just like Chin groups, but other ethnic groups like Karen, Shan, Kachin and things like that. And so we share similar struggles and we face similar oppression. So why not work together and connect with one another, because there might be certain solutions that they have that we haven't even thought of yet. So I definitely think there needs to be more of an integration with other groups too. I think we're pretty close off, so I would like us to be more open-minded. And then I guess as individuals, what I want other people to remember or contribute, or how they can contribute. You can contribute in countless ways, whether that's like through money or doing these trips and things like that. But I think one crucial way for everyone in our community, from like a 10-year-old to like an elder person, is that we stay informed and aware of what's happening back home. I understand with some of our youth, we don't have a lot of platforms that do news updates in English and things like that. But I think it's really important to have those conversations with your family and relatives and community members to stay updated, because the more you learn, the better equipped you'll be able to find meaningful ways to contribute to your community. The more you know, you're just going to be able to kind of narrow down what is it that you can be useful and make a huge impact in. And so being informed, being aware, and trying to get your information as much as possible, I think is something that we lack within our community. I think is sometimes we're like, oh, we don't hear it, so we don't really need to think about it. And so I want us to be more alert and be more informed. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk today.
Thank you. We really appreciate it too. Any thoughts, comments before we leave? And then where can people find you if you want to share? Jenny, you can start because you were talking. So
okay. I'm always open to Facebook, adding as a friend. That seems to be the easiest thing for everybody back home too, and here in the US or any other place or any other country. So feel free to connect with me. And we're always looking for, more people to work with us in TCI, and we want to have a very impactful research. And so being able to work with different youth members that have different expertise in different fields, I definitely want to connect. And so feel free to connect. I'm open, even if it's just like a regular conversation. I'm open to that too. So, but yeah, Facebook is the best.
all right. Do you have any comments or anything that you want to add before we end?
I think I said everything already. But I also just want to thank VOC for giving me the chance to talk about this. I think sometimes it's a lot easier for me to express myself in English, and so having this opportunity and being able to say what I need to say in a more comfortable way has been really rewarding. So thank you so much.
We really appreciate it too. All right, Teresa.
Yeah, I also wanted to thank you guys for having me share about my experiences. I think it's really cool that you have a platform in English, like for other youth or people who may be more comfortable with English. And so yeah, thank you for having me. And I also am on Facebook. You can find me. It's just Teresa Chin. Whether it's about work or anything else, if you want to become friends, I'm totally down to chat. So yeah, thank you.
All right, is that my turn? Melvin, can I go?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram as well. I think my name is Muito Valte or Valte Muito. And here I am in Melbourne, Australia, and do come and visit us. We will show you beautiful beaches and koalas and kangaroos. We live in a very beautiful city, so make sure you spend your holidays and trips here in Australia. And yeah, thank you very much to Voice of Chinland as well for having me. And I really appreciate all the audience who listen to us. Thank you.
Wow, you did such an amazing job. I might buy an air ticket now to come to Australia. All right, thank you so much. That's being said, we will finish our panel here. Please follow us on Facebook. We have Twitter, we have Instagram. So I know it's just the beginning that we're doing, but please follow us. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next time. Okay. Thank you. Bye bye.